finish.
It's a forest. It's an Nettle Sentinel right away here for Jessup. If Jones didn't know what he was playing before, he certainly knows now, as Jones will just start off with a Tundra.
Mono green beatdown.
Absolutely.
Which is sort of true. I mean, this deck eventually attacks you.
In some respects, it is mono green beatdown. Nettle Sentinel's going to come into the red zone. Jones down to 18. Beatdowns indeed.
Follow up with a rogue elephant, maybe.
How about a Verdant Catacombs? Is that okay?
Albino troll.
Yep. Bouncing Jaguar, is it?
Bouncing Jaguar.
Or Birchlore Ranger. Trigger in and untap. See if Jessup has anything else to do this turn. It doesn't appear to be the case. I might have a Swords of Plowshares here, maybe a Brainstorm. It'll be a Swords. It's going to go after the Birchlore Ranger. Birchlore Ranger will bite the dust. It'll be exiled. Jessup will gain a life. We'll head back Jones's way.
And Kevin obviously doesn't care that much about his life total here. It's not likely that he gets nickel and dimed out of the game. He just needs to cut off Jessup's mana. And so Birchlore Ranger is much more threatening than Nettle Sentinel.
Verdant Catacombs will be sacrificed by Jessup. We'll see if it's going to search for a non-basic land, maybe a forest, or perhaps the very powerful Dryad Arbor. And he's going to go with the Arbor.
A lot of good interactions here with a couple of the elves. Very good Gaia's Cradle as well.
Most versions of Elves play 2 copies of this card nowadays, and Jessup is playing 2 as well.
For a while, we saw 1 in most lists because it just looks like, you know, something to tutor for with a fetch land. But because of the synergies with Gaia's Cradle, Natural Order, lists have gone up to 2.
Yep.
You're just pretty happy to draw 1. In some games, you want to be able to fetch the second one.
So Jessup with a Nettle Sentinel, and a Dryad Arbor in play, along with that forest. See what he can put together here for his 3rd turn of the game. He'll start by getting in the red zone with Nettle Sentinel. 2 damage will come across. Jones going to go down to 16. The follow-up may be an Elvish Visionary, and it looks to be. See if this does resolve. We'll have a Brainstorm in response by Kevin. Kevin will draw 3 cards. 1 is a Force of Will. 2 is unclear. The 3rd is a Flooded Strand. So I'll have to put 2 cards back. See if he has an answer to the Elvish Visionary.
It's funny because in Standard, Kevin's sort of been tilting towards these Jeskai aggro lists that are more controlling than aggressive. And this is sort of the legacy version of that strategy.
Indeed.
No Mantis Riders, but...
Well, you don't know that.
I guess I don't know.
All right, he doesn't have any Mantis Riders. Visionary does resolve. Card is drawn. And a passing of the turn back to Jones.
Might be a Lightning Angel format anyway. Can't Volt it, can't Abrupt Decay it, I don't know.
Just good deck building right there.
It's a metagame read.
An island and a passing of the turn back to Jessup. Jessup looking to work his way towards a Cradle, a bunch of green mana to get a Craterhoof Behemoth into play. We don't expect Nickel and Diamond to be good, but it has been good before. It does have 4 power on the table already.
And now it's really important to know, does Jessup know what he's playing against?
Yep.
Because what does it respect here? Does he respect Supreme Verdict? Does he respect Snapcaster Mage on the Swords of Plowshares? There's a lot of bad things that can happen, a lot of things for Jessup to have to think about and play around.
Kevin's going to start by sacrificing a Flooded Strand. One of the nice things in this matchup for Jones is that he doesn't have to worry about Wasteland, so he can search up non-basics liberally. That's what he's going to do. He'll get himself a Tundra. No need to show that he has red mana in his deck just yet. Does have 2 main deck copies of Lightning Bolt, access to some red cards in his sideboard, and a couple copies of Volcanic Island. He's just going to grab a Tundra, shuffle and present, and we'll see what kind of response he does have to this attack. Feels very Snapcaster Mage-esque to me. There is old Snappy.
You can see Kevin with another fetch line in hand, so he doesn't have to reveal red mana just yet. And he does have needs for double white in his deck with 1 copy of Supreme Verdict and 1 copy of Council's Judgment.
Sure. There is Snapcaster Mage. 1 damage is going to come across. The options for Snapcaster Mage here are Brainstorm and Swords of Plowshares in the graveyard. Unclear which one was targeted at this point, but it's made very clear now. Sword's going to go after Dryad Arbor.
And Swords of Plowshares is such a nice card to target there with the Snapcaster Mage because it probably causes Andrew to do nothing with his turn because he doesn't want to deploy anything significant. And then Kevin can still just go ahead and use Swords of Plowshares on the Dryad Arbor at the end of the turn.
So it sounds like to me what you're saying is that Snapcaster Mage is a really good card.
It is a really good card in concert with cheap spells
Yes.
like Brainstorm or Swords of Plowshares.
Now this Swords took place at the end of combat.
That makes sense.
That does make sense because it stops some mana from being produced. Wirewood Symbiote is the follow-up. And Kevin might have some interest in Force of Willing here. Because this engine, Wirewood Symbiote and Elvish Visionary, very powerful.
Yeah, it looks like Kevin's just going to let it go for the time being.
Stoneforge Mystic the draw here for Jones. Very good card in this matchup. There's a Flooded Strand. And it looks like it might be time for Stoneforge. And it is. So Stoneforge is going to resolve. Trigger going to search up an equipment. Batter's Skull Room is always GT are the weapons of choice. Typically in this matchup, players search up the GT.
It's very hard for Elves to get out from under this card once it starts connecting. If Jessup has a really developed board, he may be able to win on the way back. You can occasionally have some things like Wirewood Symbiote that mucks up combat, but once this starts connecting, Elves does not have a way to get out from under it.
So there is the GT. Kevin is working his way towards a pretty nice board and getting into the mid-game where he can be pretty confident that things are in his favor. He's got Force of Will as protection here, too.
I believe his hand right now is Umezawa's Jite, 2 Force of Wills, and 2 other blue cards.
It's a good place to be.
In this spot, pretty close to a perfect 5.
Jessup with just 1 Forest, Wirewood Symbiote, and Elvish Visionary in play. He's had some mana issues this game. Just has not ever really gotten to get off the ground. Has a copy of Glimpse of Nature in hand, but that's not really going to do a lot here given the situation. And one of the cards that could have helped produce a lot of mana, Birchler Rangers, that bit the dust early. There's a Wooded Foothills. Now here's another copy of Wirewood Symbiote.
Well, if Kevin didn't fight over the first one, I'm hard-pressed to imagine he fights over the second one.
Yeah, we will see. It doesn't look like he's going to. Andrew just passed the turn back. Over to Kev. Looks like another Force of Will was drawn. Now 3 copies of that card in hand. All he'll do is pass the turn back. Looking to set up the GT for next turn.
It felt like Kevin could have potentially been a little bit more proactive that turn by putting Jite on the Stoneforge Mystic attacking, probably Visionary blocks and comes back to hand. Then you just Force of Will stuff on the way back down, and then the lock is established.
Sure.
I guess Kevin's hand is so good that he can afford to play a little bit more conservatively.
I like a pretty patient role here, honestly. I understand your line where you can get more aggressive and then then Andrew, confusing with his brother, tries to replay the Visionary, you counter it.
It's his whole turn, his board's 2 Wirewood Symbiotes, and then that's it.
Yeah.
You're connecting with Jite, blowing up his whole board.
Jessup going to search up a Dryad Arbor. I guess that was the other option, too, is that Andrew can continuously block the Stoneforge Mystic by getting Dryad Arbor and just bouncing that, replaying it, doing that whole song and dance. Oh, excuse me. That's not a Queer Dryad, so you can't do it with Wirewood Symbiote. Wirewood Symbiote only returns an elf. Pardon me.
So I think that Kevin might have been able to take a slightly more aggressive line that turn and really pin Jessup. Nothing probably can go wrong from this spot. I think Kevin's hand just might be too good.
Here's an Elvish Visionary. He's going to Force of Will this one. We'll see if he wants to remove Spell Pierce or Force of Will. Looks like he wants to remove a Force of Will. So he has 3 copies of that card in hand. Now Kevin will sacrifice Flooded Strand. Go a little bit lower, get a land out of the deck. And we'll see the GT slide in through the Mystic, I imagine, in just a moment. As Volcanic Island. Showing off that he does, in fact, have a little bit of red in his deck.
Yeah, I like Kevin being coy for a couple turns there, not revealing until he has to. But with this, the last land that Kevin can get for the time being, I think you just need to get red mana. If Kevin draws Lightning Bolt, he definitely wants to be able to cast it right now. And concealing that information is not as valuable as just having access to red mana.
So We will see Umezawa slide through here momentarily. Actually, we're going to see a dig through time. Well, pardon me. That was one of the blue cards left over. A little surprised by that?
Well, I'm slightly concerned here on Kevin's side because now he's just down to one Force of Will as protection. And Andrew's starting to develop a board.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no guarantee that Kevin wins a long game even casting Dig Through Time.
And it's definitely hard to pass up on Dig. Dig is an extremely powerful card, but I thought for sure we would see Umezawa slide through there on the end step and then equip and start getting into the red zone. But Kevin has other plans. And it's not like Dig Through Time is a bad thing to be doing. Source of Plowshare is among the options.
Yeah, this is by no means bad. If I'm in Kevin's seat, though, I would have just been basically rushed to get Jite on a creature and start attacking before Andrew gets much of anything going. At that point, you save your one Force of Will for a random main deck Reclamation Sage or something like that, and I don't know if game one, at least, Andrew can get out from that sort of line of play. In the post-board games where you respect Abrupt Decay or Crow's Hand Grip, a little different. Maybe you don't want to be all in on Jite, but game one is usually pretty safe.
Now here's the swords. Going to go after the Visionary. This actually works okay because, yes, Andrew can't pick it up and untap his Dryad Arbor, but now the coast is clear.
Yeah, it sets up the same spot.
Yeah.
Which is just Jite connecting.
That's the big goal. There is Jite. It's time to equip, get in the red zone. Now, if you're Jessup, I believe you're forced to double block here.
Yeah. So I think this is the logic for Kevin going ahead and using Dig Through Time last turn, is if he finds a Source of Plowshares or a Lightning Bolt, he sets up the same structure, and he gets to cast the Dig Through Time.
And he gets to kill everything this turn, if there's a double block that takes place.
So it is a slightly greedy play, but not super greedy.
So Jessup opts to block here.
We've seen Elves players stare down the barrel of this card several times over the last couple of years, and it's never good.
It's not particularly fun, no. Not particularly fun. Says, all right, I'll take the one. You get 2 counters on your Jite. Remove one, kill both of these. Leave you with the Dryad Arbor. Pass that turn back, ready to counter whatever you play. Has the mana for Spell Pierce, also has blue card for Force of Will. See how much longer Jessup wants to play this out. Such a tough spot to get through.
Yep. I mean, with Natural Order in hand, I can see playing for another turn or two, but this is a bad spot.
Andrew going to move some things around, maybe do a little bit of math, think about what his outs are in this situation. But they are slim to say the least. You take a look at the main deck. You're not even going to find a thing like Reclamation Sage in the main to take care of a Jite. Here's Hellish Visionary. Kevin says, I don't care. That's fine.
Yep.
I wouldn't care either.
Does it blow up or somehow nullify Umezawa's Jite? No? Okay.
Yep.
It resolves.
There's a Cradle. I can tap for 2 green. At the very least, you can hope, if you're Andrew, that Kevin makes some sort of mistake. There's a glimpse with 1 green left. Kevin's going to sacrifice the Flood Share, and we'll see a Spell Pierce on that. He's certainly trying.
Yeah.
You got to give him that.
It's possible that Jessup's out is last turn just double blocking the Stoneforge Mystic and hoping that Kevin never finds another creature.
Absolutely. It's not impossible. It's just really hard.
Right.
There's Heritage Truth.
I think by saying no blocks the previous turn, Andrew is just doomed. Because I guess he can still cobble together the same double block this turn.
Yeah. I mean, there's not a lot that he can beat here. Don't get me wrong. Here's a Ponder. If Kevin finds something like a Sword, a Snapcaster Mage, a Lightning Bolt, any of that stuff, it's lights out.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I would have cast the Ponder in this spot too, because with Vendilion Click in hand, you can reestablish Umezawa's Jitte in a way that Andrew definitely can interact with. And Force of Will plus blue card plus Vendilion Click, I think, is too much for Andrew to overcome. Whereas if you just miss with the Ponder, maybe it gets a little sketchy.
Supreme Verdict was the card that was found. Here's your double block.
All right, Supreme Verdict will do.
Yeah, that's honestly a card I wouldn't want to show.
Sure.
We talk about concealing information. Maybe if Kevin could have concealed red lands, and he did for a little while, but then decided to show them in case he drew a Lightning Bolt. But Supreme Verdict is a card I do not want Andrew to know about.
Yeah.
Here's your 2 counters, no blocks. 1. Let's see where the other -1/-1's going to go towards the Dryad Arbor. That's 2.
Yeah, Kevin just trying to constrict mana as much as possible at this point.
Yep. In the draw step, we'll have Vendilion Click. Natural Orders and a Quirion Ranger. Little math. I believe he says you can keep them. Not too much to be worried about here. And also because it is game 1, you don't have to worry about something like Progenitus coming off a Natural Order.
And Kevin's still armed with Force of Will and Supreme Verdict, so he's got it all covered.
Only person who doesn't know that is the person across the table from him.
Oh, I think Andrew knows he's in some trouble.
Oh, you think so?
I think he has a sense of that.
Fair enough. Kevin will draw. He might move that Jitte onto the flyer, but he says no need for that. Coming across for 4 points of damage. More charge counters. See if he wants to kill the Elvish Visionary or not. Looks like he does.
Yeah, with the Cradle in play, just kill stuff.
Yeah, it just kills a mana. So even though Jessup has 2 lands in play, he actually only has 1. Andrew will just pass the turn back. Doesn't look like he has any interest in conceding. He's going to play it out, maybe pick up some more information. Jones will play a plane, still come into the red zone for 4 points of damage. 2 more charge counters will go on the Jitte. Jessup's down to 10. It can be 3-4. It can be a lethal attack next turn. Yep, and Kevin says, I have Force of Will. I'm not going to slow roll you. Andrew Jessup will concede. So Kevin Jones is going to win game number 1 here over Andrew Jessup. Jeskai Stoneblade up in game here over Elves. To take a look at the sideboard, we will start with Andrew and his Elves deck to find 3 Thoughtseize, 3 Cabal Therapy, a Pit and Needle and Null Rod, 3 Abrupt Decays, a Sylvan Library, a Scavenging Ooze, a Reclamation Sage, and a Progenitus. Some useful tools here.
Yeah, definitely wants the anti-equipment package here, the 3 copies of Abrupt Decay. I think the Null Rod and the Needle can come in here as well. I think Sylvan Library is reasonable here, as Kevin's probably sideboarding into a slower deck with more removal spells. I also like the discard spells here too, but I just don't know if Jessup has enough wiggle room to bring in all those cards. The 1 Reclamation Sage is nice, and I think Progenitus could come in here as well if you expect that Kevin's loading up on removal spells and establishing a Craterhoof Behemoth kill is just too hard.
Yeah, you just have to try to get Progenitus into play. And that'll be hard. It'll basically make it so Kevin has to draw the Supreme Verdict.
And that's another card that's sort of a sideways way of potentially beating Umezawa's Jitte. So I think the Progenitus is fine in this matchup.
What do we see on Kevin's side?
2 copies of Blood Moon, 2 copies of Meddling Mage, 2 Rest in Peace, 2 Red Elemental Blast, 2 Flusterstorm, a Nereally the Lithomancer, a Sword of Feast and Famine, a Wear Tear, a Pyroblast, and a Graph Digger's Cage. So Graph Digger's Cage, very good here. Natural Order and Green Sun Zenith and so forth can touch that, but other than that, not a lot. I mean, I guess Sword of Feast and Famine is an upgrade over Batterskull.
I think that is in this matchup.
Yeah,
I'm not excited about either card.
Right. I think attacking Andrew's hand is a sounder strategy than trying to gain life.
Yes.
Life total doesn't really matter that much. And protection from green might come up randomly in certain spots as well. So I think the sword is an upgrade.
Game number 2 going to be underway here in just a moment, but we will talk YouTube, specifically the Star City Games YouTube channel, where you can find a lot of sweet stuff. Our Versus series, our premium Versus series archives, along with the premium Magic Online videos, Open Series archives, so if you want to go back and watch this tournament or any of our others on the Open Series, and then unboxings and other creative content that we do have on YouTube that we don't actually put onto the website. So YouTube.com/StarCityGames for more information about that. See some of the sweet stuff that we produce on the website and some of it that doesn't ever make it to the website that's just specifically for YouTube. A lot of fun.
It's free to subscribe. The premium content goes on there eventually, so after a month or so, goes up on the YouTube page, so you can check out some old content that if you're not a member for Star City Games Premium, you can eventually check out. And as you mentioned, a couple of things that are exclusive to the YouTube page, like the unboxings.
Star City Games. That's our YouTube page. Come check it out. Game number 2 going to be underway here between Jones and Jessup in just a bit. Andrew, you have to do your brother's bidding in this situation. So if Andrew loses this match to Kevin, what should Danny do?
Whew, I don't know. That's a really good question.
Right? Is dinner on Andrew then, or
Wedgie, Wet Willie?
I like that. I like that. An atomic wedgie, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
What do they call it when you pull? Because he's wearing a hoodie. What do they call it when you like to pull the hoodie over someone and then just punch them a bunch? There's like a name for that, right?
That's beating someone up. I don't know.
I think there's an official name for that. Seems like a hockey thing. I don't know.
Nahiri the Lithomancer is going pretty deep.
Take a look at that card. Nahiri the Lithomancer.
It's a planeswalker that can be your commander.
Okay.
Among other applications.
Okay.
I'm assuming this is more for control mirror matches, is my best guess.
All right, let's take a licksky-poo. So that's Stoneforge Mystic, basically. All right, so 5 mana, 3 loyalty. Put a 1/1 white core soldier creature token onto the battlefield. You may attach an equipment you control to it. Okay. So that's the +2. -2, you may put an equipment card from your hand or graveyard onto the battlefield. -10, put a colorless equipment artifact token named Stoneforge Blade onto the battlefield. It has indestructible, equipped creature gets +5/+5, and has double strike.
And equip 0.
This is pretty deep.
So I'm assuming that it's basically for, the minus is nice in matchups where maybe they have one wear tear to answer equipment or an ancient grudge. You can kind of power through it that way.
Okay.
And the plus power is not horrible if the board's stable, or you found your equipment but they killed your Stoneforge Mystic, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think it's coming in here.
No, it's not.
And if a commander game breaks out, well, you're prepared because here it can be your commander.
Always good to be prepared for that.
There you go.
I have my commander deck with me.
Oh, yeah, that's right. The gift you got at Cleveland. I believe.
Absolutely. It is at the ready. Goblin is a captain. I believe Krenko is the captain here of the deck. Big fan.
Here a Commander 2014 joint.
I'm just saying that might be going a little deep. That's all I'm saying. And I approve of going deep. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But that's pretty deep. That's all. I hope it does something for Kevin, much like Narset did at his win at Edison when Constant Arcade just came out. And we haven't seen Narset since, but it was really good for him that weekend.
Another card that can be your commander.
True. Coming full circle now.
Recurring theme. Vendilion Click.
Can be your commander.
If you're a Filthy Spike with no sense of fun, then Vendilion Click can be your commander.
Jessup will be on the play here.
If every little sliver of humanity has been stripped away from you somehow, then Vendilion Click can be your commander.
We'll start things off with a Green Sun Zenith for a Dryad Arbor. Gonna have to shuffle twice.
Mm-hmm.
That is the rule of the card, after all.
Koshi's Trickster, Green Sun Zenith, perhaps Legacy's best interaction.
I'm inclined to agree. And of course, Greg Hatch would be the one to find it.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a Ponder. Kevin gonna decide if he wants to keep. Well, looks like he's shuffling. Did not like what he saw at all. Pretty quick Ponder, honestly. But sometimes you just know, so he shuffles away.
Might be one of those land drop ponders.
Somebody in the search for a second land?
Potentially.
No.
Usually when someone's shuffling that fast, it's...
I think you might be right. Yep, think you might be right. There's a bunch of Force Wolves over there. That's not a land either. Yikes. Doesn't look like Kevin has a second one just yet.
You can also tell he's worried about making his land drop because he already checked his hand to see if he had to discard the hand size.
Did a quick count.
Still 7. All right, cool. Okay, never mind. It's your turn.
Well, Danny's already got 2 lands in play thanks to that Green Sun Zenith. I keep calling him Danny. It's a terrible habit. We always see his brother.
Yeah.
It's Andrew. Andrew, I'm sorry. Andrew's going to play Wooded Foothills. Now he'll play Queer Ranger. And in with the Dryad Arbor. Land 2?
Maybe.
Ponder number 2.
Some redraws.
I don't. Even he's smiling.
Yeah.
All righty. Cross your fingers. Got some work to do. It's time to shuffle it up real good. Jones's keep's still pretty good.
His pan's very powerful. This is a Tundra or a way to get one.
He hit it from us.
Meddling Mage.
Yes. Time to discard. Jessup may have some end of turn effects before Jones goes to his discard. Kevin deciding what he wants to discard. Counterspell and Meddling Mage are the options here. Looks like he has some interest in discarding Counterspell, actually. That's not something he's going to be able to leave mana up for.
Yep.
He's going to go and discard Meddling Mage. Jessup. And draw a card. He can't be unhappy with how things are going, but then again, you have to imagine that your opponent probably has Force of Will if they kept a hand like this. So he's going to attack for 2 first.
And now Jessup kind of has to do the dance here, as you see both Glimpse and Natural Order in hand, of making sure Natural Order is lethal if he ever wants it, but leaving enough in reserve, or if he wants to go to the Glimpse route, that's available to him as well.
Meddling Mage to draw. Now Brainstorm. This could get really dangerous. 1 is an Arid Mace. Okay, he's safe. He's found a land, and a fetch land too. That's a big deal.
And Andrew hasn't really blown the doors off with his start so far, so potentially some time for Kevin to recover here.
Andrew has been slow out the gate. Just a couple of chip shots. There's a Scalding Tarn. Pass that turn back. Now Kevin Jones gets to play Magic. Jessup will sacrifice his Wooded Foothills. Maybe it's time for a Dryad Arbor. Does play two in his main deck after all. There's the second one.
Just don't stop rocking.
And give those beats.
Yep.
The chip shots could actually matter this game.
We're coming off to a pretty slow start here. Probably packing a lot of resistance too. All these points matter.
Jessup does have a Cradle in hand. As you mentioned, he's got to play this weird game too because he's got Glimpse and Natural Order.
I mean, he can open on Glimpse here, even if his hand is not really that well situated, because it probably draws out a counterspell.
I love a bluff Glimpse. You have to have enough cards in hand to do it, but I love a bluff Glimpse. I think 4 cards in hand is enough to do it. There's a Force of Will.
And even if Andrew had no designs with this Glimpse, Kevin doesn't know that.
Yeah.
Probably has to fight over this, and it makes it more and more likely that your Natural Order or your Green Sun Zenith, whatever you're really building towards, is going to resolve.
There's a Cradle. Natural Order. This forces Jones to have another Force of Will and another blue card. Fortunately for him, he has that. A card like Spell Pierce is covered here.
Well, if he has Swords to Plowshares in his hand, you know, honestly, he might be thinking, well, if he goes and gets Critterhoof Behemoth, I can plow that and keep the Force of Will. The problem is, if Andrew has brought in Progenitus, you have to counter this.
Yes, we're in a sideboarded game. If he has brought in Progenitus, this would be horrible news. Kevin just has to decide what to exile to Force of Will, as he's going to take 1 to cast it. He'll exile the counterspell, we think. He's a little unsure, but he'll go with that. So Natural Order has been countered. Let's see what our follow-up is. Green Sun Zenith for 1. That's going to resolve. Kevin Jones this turn went from 7 cards down to 3. He's up for the Snapcaster Mage, a Source of Plowshares, and a Flooded Strand in hand.
Yeah, the real prize in games like this is Stoneforge Mystic. When both players are very low on resources, that's the way to win the game. Snapcaster Mage is not bad in this spot. Another copy of Swords of Plowshares is nice to have as well, but Andrew will likely get some more draw steps to find a kill here or get to Progenitus if Kevin does not get to Stoneforge Mystic quickly.
There's an attack for 1 at passing of the turn. Jones will draw. Meddling Mage. Sacrifice a Scalding Tarn. Will Kevin. See what land he wants to search up here. Could be a Tundra. Looks like it will be. He'll get a little meddlesome. And we'll see what Chris Pakula does name here. I'll go with natural order.
Well, that is not the Chris Pakula art,
This is true. This is true.
as I'm sure Chris would be quick to mention.
Well, Chris is probably watching right now. It's Legacy after all. There he is. There's the guy. Jessup picking up Quern Ranger there. That's a loud signal of what's in hand.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he can't really attack next turn. So even if he doesn't have Glimpse, there's an argument to do it. But most likely it represents Glimpse.
There it is. Kevin gonna sacrifice his Flooded Strand. Does have swords in hand, so perhaps he'll go after this wire with Symbiote. Yep.
Yeah, for those of you wondering, no plateau in Kevin's list.
Yeah.
So he had to make the choice there.
Rarely will you find one here.
Sometimes you see a plateau and it looks a little weird, but there are corner cases like this spot where if Kevin had one in the deck, he would definitely go get it.
Yep.
Because he needs white mana and doesn't want to cut himself off from red.
Andrew had the opportunity to add some mana with Cradle there, chose not to.
Bigger plans.
If things go right.
And if they go wrong, it didn't matter anyway that you tapped your cradle.
There's the Ranger. Trigger the Glimpse. So a card coming. See if he can chain off here a little bit. Picked up a copy of Wirewood Symbiote, it seems. Keep it going. Draw another one. Gonna use the Ranger. Pick up the Forest. Untap there.
Tried Arbor, just so many little synergies in this deck.
Yep. Pick this up. Untap there. Replay this. Draw a card. Add a green. Play a Deathrite Shaman. Draw a card.
Guy's cradle still not used.
Yep. Would be tapping for 4 right now. He saw it because Ranger was replayed. It can be used again. Zenith. It'll be for 2. I smell an Elvish Visionary. Only 1 card coming. That won't trigger the Glimpse. But as enter the battlefield, trigger does occur.
You're kind of seeing a bit of an alternate route here for the Elves deck. Doesn't necessarily have to combo out in the spot to win the game. Even if Andrew finds something like Abrupt Decay for the Meddling Mage, he can just start going beatdowns.
There's the Visionary draw. Keep in mind, Andrew hasn't played land yet this turn either. He's untapped his Dried Arbor a couple of times, but he hasn't actually played a land. So if he runs into another Cradle, it could be very powerful stuff. There's a Forest.
And if he's playing a land, it probably means it's the end of the line.
Yep. Still a good turn.
Yep. Drew a bunch of cards, build up a board.
Jones with just a Snapcaster Mage. Did draw a card for the turn, however. Looks like there's a copy of Flusterstorm, so 2 blue cards in hand at this point. Melee Mage in play, currently naming Natural Order. So that cannot be cast by Andrew Jessup.
And Kevin may need to consider just main-facing the Snapcaster Mage on Swords to Plowshares and getting rid of the Symbiote, because once Jessup untaps with the Deathrite Shaman, it's possible Snapcaster Mage is cut off from Kevin for the entire game. Or if he's feeling like he needs to find one of his Haymakers, maybe he gets back Ponder. But the point is that I think he needs to do something with the Snapcaster Mage right now.
He is. Gonna play Swords. Gonna go after Wirewood. That one always causes the biggest problems.
Yeah. It's also an insect, so it's generally just safe to target and kill, unlike some of the other elves where there's some shenanigans for them to get picked up.
Jessup will draw. Yeah, he's moving fast now. There's a Ranger. This is happening for 5, 6, 7. I smell a Crater Hoof.
Oh, natural.
Oh, natural-ish. Oh,
I
natural-ish.
was hoping that it would just be a hard cast hoof.
There is your Crater of Behemoth trigger. Whole bunch of damage as Andrew Jessup is going to win game number 2 here over Kevin Jones. Elves and Jeskai Stoneblade getting ready for game number 3. That means Jones will be on the play.
And there's Danny on the rail behind his brother.
You better believe it. Saying, Andrew, get the job done, please.
This is a really fun open to cover. We haven't seen Legacy in a while. There's a lot riding on this tournament for the Players' Championship and the Season 2 point invite. Everyone who's in the mix is at the event.
Yep. There's some nice sub-stories that are taking place for sure. Danny's obviously hoping that Kevin loses here. Hoping that Andrew can get the job done. You've got Gerard, you've got Ross Merriam, of course, battling. Joe Lissette has made the trip over from California. He's off to a good start with his Miracles deck, unsurprisingly. We're going to see how things do go. We will very quickly talk about, however, as players who shuffle up for game number 3. The Next Level Library by Patrick Chapin. Not 1, but 2 books. That's the Next Level Deck Building and the remastered edition of Next Level Magic.
Prolific writer, game designer, musician, Patrick Chapin. 2 books here, Next Level Magic, Next Level Deck Building. Next Level Magic, more of a focus on play, and Deck Building, focusing on the philosophy and structure of building decks by Hall of Famer, Pro Tour champion, 2-time World's runner-up, Patrick Chapin. It's for players of all ability levels, available on paperback and ebook at starcgames.com/nextlevel.
I own them both.
I do as well.
Just some solid reading material.
I was thumbing through Next Level Deck Building the other day.
Okay.
And found that one of my decks actually made it into Next Level Deck Building, which is quite the honor.
What deck?
A Legacy Burn deck from 2011, I think.
Okay. I was really hoping for something much worse.
No. The Yamabushi's Flame.
You know, that's my go-to one to make fun of you about. Because even though you won the LCQ to grind into the Pro Tour, it's still one of the worst decks I've ever seen in my entire life.
It is a truly atrocious deck.
Yeah. An absolute disaster.
2 mountains in the sideboard for Wrathy Dragon. No, somehow that deck did not make it into Next Level Deck Building.
Boros Guild Mage, no white activation.
No white mana.
Just, what's the red ability? Haste?
Yeah.
Oh,
that came up.
Speed it up.
Yep.
It can target itself, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Flooding out a little bit, that's fine.
4 mana, 2/2 haste?
Sure.
That's truly the worst deck I've ever seen anyone win with. That's a testament to your ability to play red cards correctly. Because, wow.
You got to talk to Paul Chian about that one. He's the one I beat in the top 8 for the Pro Tour
I
slot.
know.
And that one can't sit well.
Never let him forget. Never let him forget you took him down. Here's a ponder. You know, lives have taken different paths. Paul is now a gold level pro, streaming all the time.
Very successful Magic player.
Absolutely.
Better than I ever was. But I still have the Yamabushi's Flame.
Never goes off the scoreboard.
Yeah.
Yep, there's a land. Player's going to pick up the pace a little bit here. It might see a little bit more short-cutting. Because they've only got about 10 minutes left to play. Saw Ponder resolved on Jones's side. There's a Quirion Ranger on Jessup's side as he goes down to 19 from the Misty Rainforest. It's a Scalding Tarn.
very good hand here from the looks of it for Kevin. Source of Plowshare, Snapcaster Mage, some counter spells. No Stoneforge Mystic, but other than that, pretty much all the tools you'd asked for.
Certainly a solid combination. He'll search up a Tundra. Again, he can search up non-basics without any fear of Wasteland in this matchup. See what comes next here for Jones. Might see him fire for swords right now. Grand Ranger certainly is powerful in this deck. Looks like he's going to start with a Ponder. Take a look at 3, get some info. Stoneforge Mystic among the cards. There's a Brainstorm there too. All seems pretty good on the surface. Just depends on how good it is in the context of his hand.
Yeah. I mean, this feels like Kevin's got all the tools. You know, now with Stoneforge Mystic, this is everything he can really ask for, and it's just about picking a path.
Pass that turn back. Jessup gonna draw. One thing to keep in mind too, it's often understated, but Kevin Jones is also the Legacy World Champion.
Yep.
From Eternal Weekend.
Yep.
I think a lot of
Philadelphia last year.
Yeah, I think a lot of people forget about that. He's definitely had his troubles in Standard, and that's most of our main events nowadays. But Legacy is somewhere he is certainly comfortable and has seen a lot of success.
And we talk a lot about, you know, the Jupiter Games type of crews, these very legacy-focused type of teams and areas. They all come out for events like Eternal Weekend.
Yeah.
So the names you see in the top 8, if you don't necessarily recognize them, they're all legacy players.
There's Spell Snare on the Visionary. Here comes Quern Ranger for 1. Pass that turn back over to Jones. Jones will take a draw step. Remember, he did not sacrifice a fetch land after that Brainstorm was unresolving because it was a really good Brainstorm. Here's Caracas. There is a Grafdigger's Cage. Maybe. Little awkward in combination with Snapcaster Mage. But he will play that and pass that turn back. Maybe realizing he may have made an error there.
Yeah, I mean, that Snapcaster Mage alongside the Swords of Plowshares is pretty valuable.
Yep. Cage obviously very powerful in this matchup, however.
Oh, I'm happy to play the Cage at some point, for sure. It's possible it's still more valuable just to get into play right now.
Yep.
But it seemed like Kevin realized what the implications were after he had put the Cage into play.
There's a glimpse. This is a Brainstorm. 3 cards coming. 2, of course, will go back. Stoneforge is 1. Scalding Tarn is 2. Looks like Flooded Strand is number 3.
And I think there's an argument for Kevin just using the Swords to Plowshares right now because Jessup might at some point put a Cradle into play and use that productively.
You can't respond to that.
If you're going to use Swords to Plowshares at some point in this turn anyway, it may as well be now.
Well, there's a Cradle. Here's a response. It's Swords. That'll resolve. Draw a card from the Glimpse. Follow up. There's a Quern Ranger. Draw a card. Add a green. Player Wire with Symbiote. Draw a card. It's not a bad turn. Get some Knuckleheads on the table.
Some protection against Umezawa's Jitte.
Yep. Draw some cards. Move on. Jones. Stoneforge. We're searching. You gotta imagine it's Jitte time. He does pull Batterskull forward. But Jitte's the real prize. And that's what he's gonna go grab.
Yep. I mean, this is the last piece of the puzzle for Kevin to win the game in the matchup.
Now he's just gotta start connecting.
Yep.
Just like we saw in game 1.
but he has no removal spell in hand. And remember, the Snapcaster Mage is turned off because of the Grafdigger's Cage. So right now, he can't bust through the Symbiote. And it's possible with Kevin's hesitation when he played the Grafdigger's Cage that Andrew has pieced together that the hesitation was a Snapcaster Mage in Kevin's hand. And now he may try to either win the game around Grafdigger's Cage or not blow it up until the absolute last second.
I think that you can pick up that information with the body language that Kevin presented with the cage.
Grafdigger's Cage is his best sideboard card in the matchup. Why would there be some reservation on Kevin's side in the middle of resolving it?
There's Abrupt Decay. Looks like somebody's got some big plans. You want that cage off the table.
I mean, he's doing that instead of killing Stoneforge Mystic. So Andrew may be going for a kill this turn.
Also not saving the Abrupt Decay for Uza's G turn.
Right. This means he's trying to do something big this turn.
Like a Heritage Druid. Maybe it gets a little bigger than that. Cradle. Natural Order. Sacrifice Heritage Druid. Kevin's hand is not equipped to deal with this.
This is just lethal. I mean, all Kevin didn't do is cast a Snapcaster Mage and put it into play.
Yep.
And
there's Natural Order.
16, 21, 22, 23, 24, minus 3 points of toughness and blocking. This is lethal.
There's the Behemoth.
Square the creatures in play, add the power, subtract toughness, lethal.
Look at you, math man. Was Matthias Hunt next to me?
Oh, yeah.
Jeez.
A mathematician.
My goodness. Looks like lights out here. That's going to do it. Andrew Jessup's going to win this game and match here over Kevin Jones, 2-1. Elves will take down Jeskai Stoneblade. Andrew obviously thrilled. He's up to 5-0. You don't see Danny, but you know he's around here somewhere. He's pretty happy too.
That's a fist pump off camera for Danny Jessup.
Yes, sir.
And, you know, game 3, that's a really impressive display by Andrew and Elves because Kevin was on the play and had pretty much everything you can ask for.